The morning I found my daughter slumped against my front door, I had just come back from picking up her birthday cake. She turned 62 next Thursday. I had ordered it weeks in advance, lemon with white frosting, her favorite since she was 7 years old. I remember humming to myself as I carried it up the porch steps. I remember the way the morning felt ordinary, quiet, the kind of quiet you stop appreciating until everything changes. She was sitting on the ground with her back against the door, her knees pulled to her chest, one hand pressed flat against her ribs. Her coat was torn at the shoulder. There was dried blood along her hairline. I dropped the cake. "Baby." I was on my knees before I knew I had moved. "Baby, look at me." Her eyes opened slowly. She looked at me the way a person looks when they have been holding themselves together for so long that seeing a familiar face finally breaks them open. "Mom," she whispered, "I didn't know where else to go." Her name is Renee. She is my oldest daughter, my firstborn, the one who taught me what it meant to love something more than my own life. She married her husband, Marcus, 9 years ago in a small ceremony at the Botanical Garden downtown. I stood in the front row and cried through the whole thing. Marcus seemed like a good man. He laughed loud and meant it. He called me ma'am the first time we met and never stopped. What I didn't understand, not for a long time, was that Marcus came with a family, and that family had already decided what they thought of mine. I helped Renee inside and sat her on the couch. I got a warm cloth and pressed it gently to the cut on her head. She winced but didn't pull away. I kept my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. "Tell me what happened," I said. "Take your time." She looked down at her lap. "It was his sister," she said quietly. "It was Dana. I had met Dana twice, once at the wedding and once at a Christmas dinner 2 years later. Both times she had been perfectly polite in the way that certain people are perfectly polite, the kind of polite that keeps a distance that never quite lets you in. She smiled at the right moments. She never said anything unkind directly to my face, but Renee had told me things over the years, small things at first. Dana making comments about Renee's cooking at family dinners. Dana going silent whenever Renee entered a room. Dana telling Marcus, loud enough for Renee to hear from the hallway, that he could have done better. I had told Renee to give it time. I had told her that family takes adjustment. I had told her things I now wish I could take back. "She called me last night," Renee said. She said she needed to talk, said it was about Marcus, said he was in trouble and she couldn't tell him she was coming to me, but that I was the only one she trusted. I felt something cold move through me. "So you went?" She said to meet her at the parking structure off Ridgeway, said it had to be somewhere Marcus wouldn't see us. Renee closed her eyes. I know how it sounds now, but she sounded scared, Mom. She sounded like she actually needed help. The parking structure off Ridgeway was 3 miles from here, 3 levels, mostly empty after 8 in the evening. I had driven past it 100 times without thinking about it. When I got there, she wasn't alone, Renee said. There were 2 other women. I didn't recognize either of them. One of them, I think, was a cousin. Marcus had pointed her out once at a family reunion, but I never knew her name. She stopped, pressed her fingers to her mouth. They surrounded the car before I could lock the doors, she said. Dana opened the driver's side. She grabbed my arm and she pulled me out. I tried to pull back, and that's when I fell. I hit my head on the doorframe. I didn't say anything. I kept pressing the cloth to her head very gently, and I did not say anything. While I was on the ground, Dana leaned down, Renee said, and she told me. She stopped again, swallowed. She said I was never good enough for this family. She said the problem was in my blood. She said that our kind didn't belong mixed in with theirs. She said Marcus would see it eventually, and she was just speeding things along. She looked at me then. Her eyes were steady, but her voice broke on the last word. My blood, Mom. Like something is wrong with me because of who I am. I have lived 67 years on this earth. I have worked 31 of those years as a registered nurse. I have held the hands of people in their worst moments. I have learned to keep my voice calm, even when everything inside me is on fire. That morning on my couch, with my daughter's blood on a washcloth and her words hanging in the air between us, I felt something settle in my chest like stone. I was not going to cry. I was not going to lose control. But I was not going to let this go. Did you call Marcus? I asked. I called him twice on the way here. He didn't answer. Did you call the police? She hesitated. I started to, but Dana said before she left. She said if I involved anyone, she would tell Marcus I had been seeing someone else. She said she had proof. She said she'd been building a case for months. Renee shook her head. There's nothing to find because there's nothing there. But Marcus? He has a temper when he feels disrespected. I didn't know what he would do before I could explain. I set down the cloth. I took both of her hands in mine. Listen to me, I said. You are going to sit here. You are going to drink the tea I'm about to make you. And I am going to make one phone call. Mom, one phone call, I said. And then we are going to handle this the right way. My younger brother James has been a detective with the county for 22 years. He is quiet in the way that still water is quiet, deep, and not to be underestimated. He is the person I have called in every real emergency of my adult life. He answered on the second ring. It's early, he said. I need you, I said. He was at my house in 40 minutes. He sat across from Renee and listened to everything without interrupting once. He asked 2 questions when she finished. Then he took out his notebook, wrote something down, and looked at me. You did the right thing calling me first, he said. What James explained over the next hour changed the shape of everything. Dana had made a mistake that people who believe they are protected often make. She had made her threat in a parking structure that had cameras on every level. She had brought witnesses, which meant she had brought evidence. And the cousin, whose name James pulled up in less than 10 minutes of searching, had 2 prior incidents on her record involving harassment. She thought she was scaring you into silence, James told Renee. She didn't think about what she was building. But there was something else, something I had not expected. James leaned forward with his elbows on his knees. Renee, he said carefully, has Marcus been behaving differently in the past few months? Pulling back? Being secretive? Changes in his schedule? Renee looked at him. Yes, she said slowly. I thought it was work stress. He changed his phone passcode in January. He started going to his mother's more. He stopped talking about the future the way he used to. James nodded. He looked at me. I could see in his expression that he had already put something together. Dana didn't do this alone, he said. This was coordinated. Someone decided a long time ago that this marriage wasn't going to last, and they've been working toward that. The question is whether Marcus knows what his family has been doing in his name, or whether he's been a part of it. The silence in my living room was very loud. Renee sat very still. I watched her face move through something I recognized. The specific grief of having to consider whether the person you love most might have let you down in the most fundamental way. I had felt it once, a long time ago, and I would not wish it on anyone. We don't know yet, I said to her. We find out before we decide anything. James spent 2 days moving carefully and quietly. He made calls. He reviewed footage from the parking structure. He spoke with a colleague who worked in family law about what Renee's options were depending on what they found. He did not rush, and he did not make noise. On the second evening, he came back to my house with a folder. He set it on the kitchen table. Marcus didn't know, he said. I'm certain of that. His sister has been telling him a version of Renee that isn't real. Small things, consistent things, over years. A comment here, a story there. She's been building a picture. He paused. She did the same thing to his first girlfriend, 7 years before he met Renee. That woman left town. I tracked her down. She told me everything. Renee pressed her hand over her mouth. He's not innocent, James continued. He should have paid closer attention. He should have questioned what his sister was telling him instead of letting it change how he saw his wife. That's on him, and he'll have to answer for it. He looked at Renee directly. But he did not send his sister to that parking lot, and when I show him what she did, he is going to have to make a choice about who he is. I thought about the lemon cake still sitting on my counter, the frosting softening at the edges. Then let's show him, I said. We did not stage a confrontation. James had taught me long ago that confrontations feel satisfying and accomplish very little. Instead, he arranged for Marcus to come to my house under the pretense that Renee was unwell and asking for him. Marcus arrived, looking pale and anxious, and when he saw Renee sitting upright and composed at my kitchen table, relief moved across his face before anything else could. That told me something. James set the folder on the table. He walked Marcus through the footage. He played a voicemail Dana had left Renee 3 weeks earlier that Renee had saved without fully understanding why. Some instinct for protection she hadn't even been conscious of. He showed Marcus the record of the cousins' prior incidents. He showed him the testimony from the woman who had come before Renee. Marcus did not speak for a long time after it was over. When he finally looked up, he looked at Renee, not at James, not at me. He looked at his wife. I'm sorry, he said, and then, because some things require more than 2 words, I have been listening to the wrong voice for a long time. I didn't know how wrong. I'm sorry. Renee looked at him for a long moment. I did not move. I did not speak. This part was not mine. You're going to have to earn that, she said quietly. It's going to take a long time, and your sister does not set foot in our lives again. Marcus nodded. He didn't argue. He didn't negotiate. Dana was charged with assault and battery. The cousin was charged alongside her. The district attorney, once James walked him through the footage and the pattern of behavior, took it seriously. There was no quiet settlement. No family meeting where things got smoothed over. There was a courtroom. There was a record. At the sentencing, Dana looked across the room and found me. I don't know what she expected to see. I kept my face still and my hands folded in my lap, and I held her gaze until she looked away. Some battles are not fought with anger. They are fought with patience and documentation, and a brother who has 22 years of knowing how systems work. Renee and Marcus are still together. I will not pretend it has been easy or that the road has been straight. Trust is not rebuilt in a season. But I watch them, and I see 2 people who are choosing, every day, to do the harder thing. That counts for something. What I want to say to anyone who is listening, anyone who has had someone tell them that something is wrong with their blood, with their family, with who they are by nature of their birth, is this: they are wrong. They have always been wrong. The proof is not in what they say about you. The proof is in who shows up, who drives 40 minutes without asking for an explanation, who sits with a notebook and does not rush, who stands in a courtroom and refuses to look away. My daughter's blood is my blood, and I have never, not for a single day of my life, been ashamed of what runs through these veins. Last Thursday, we had cake, the good kind, lemon, white frosting. Renee blew out the candles, and James made a toast that was too long and too sincere and made everybody cry anyway. The evening light came through my kitchen window the way it does in October, golden and slow. I looked around that table and I thought, This is what they were afraid of. This right here. People who love each other and refuse to be separated. I hope they were watching. I hope they understood what they failed to destroy.